On his 6th birthday, Leo made a heartfelt wish. I wish Auntie Summer could be my mom. The Auntie Summer he spoke of was Michael's secretary. Young, beautiful, gentle, and understanding. She had found her way into Michael's heart. And at some point, she had also found her way into Leo's. That day, I didn't feel heartbroken or disappointed. I didn't throw a tantrum. Instead, I threw the cake in the trash and smashed the birthday presents. I locked the door and gave my child an unforgettable childhood experience. On Leo's 6th birthday, Michael was, once again, too busy. I baked a cake myself and bought the toy Leo had been wanting. I decorated the living room in his favorite superhero theme. Everything I did was to give him a happy birthday. Watching Leo's small figure, wearing a birthday hat, and making a wish with sincere concentration, I was in an excellent mood. Even my usually annoying mother-in-law seemed more pleasant. After he blew out the candles, my mother-in-law asked him, "My dear grandson, what did you wish for?" Leo looked at me with his big eyes. I smiled at him gently. "Go ahead and tell us. Mommy wants to know too." A childish voice came from his mouth. "I wish Auntie Summer could be my mom." My smile froze. I blinked, unable to believe what I had heard. Even my mother-in-law was incredulous. "My dear grandson, what did you say?" Leo looked up with his innocent face. He repeated his earlier words. "I want Auntie Summer to be my mom." His words were like a bucket of cold water poured over my head, chilling me to the bone. I looked at the child I had carried for 10 months. He was not an easy child. From the moment he was born, he couldn't be away from me. His crying, his waking up at night, had exhausted me. But I still found him incredibly adorable. But now, his birthday wish was to have another woman as his mother. This was not my baby. This was a devil, a demon, and devils should be punished. The living room was silent. My mother-in-law held Leo, a faint, mocking smile on her face. She was mocking my failure as a mother. The nanny, Anna, nervously wrung her hands, trying to make herself as small as possible. And Leo, his round eyes were unreadable. But I knew whatever he was thinking, it wasn't something that would make me happy. I had been a pushover for so long as a mother that I had almost forgotten I was a person who held grudges. I picked up the birthday cake from the table. It had a picture of our family of 3 on it. My skills weren't great, and I had smeared Michael's face with so much chocolate frosting that it looked like a turd. This already unappetizing cake shouldn't exist. As they watched, I threw the cake into the trash. Seeing the cake being thrown away, Leo screamed, my cake." My mother-in-law had been secretly feeding Leo candy, and at his young age, his teeth were already turning black. So I usually didn't let him eat sweets. He had been looking forward to this cake for a long time. I glanced at Leo. He was startled by my look and shrank into his grandmother's arms. Seeing this, my mother-in-law immediately became displeased. "Isabella, is this really necessary? He's just a child speaking without thinking. Why are you getting upset with him?" After speaking to me, she hugged Leo and comforted him. "My dear grandson, Grandma will buy you a new cake. Your favorite Haagen-Dazs cake. Mommy is bad. We won't pay attention to bad mommy." Leo followed her lead and pointed at me. "Bad mommy. Bad mommy." Today, I was going to show him what a bad mommy was like. I pulled out Michael's favorite golf club from the cabinet. The club had a beautiful metallic sheen. It was probably worth at least as much as a car. A child's misbehavior is the father's fault. Michael, as a father, had not taught Leo anything good. He had a mistress and even brought her in front of his son. In that case, it wouldn't be too much for me to break his golf club, right? "What? What are you doing?" I dragged the golf club and walked towards my mother-in-law and Leo, step by step. Leo's birthday present was a large building block castle. I hadn't had a chance to bring it out yet, wanting it to be a surprise. I asked Anna to bring the box out from the bedroom. In front of Leo, I opened the gift box. He saw the beautiful castle and couldn't help but gasp. "Wow." His eyes lit up as he looked at me, a completely different person from the boy who had just wanted another mother. "Mommy, is this my birthday present?" I smiled. It was, but not anymore. Bang. The silver golf club swung in a beautiful arc. The castle shattered on impact, smashing the castle and smashing his beautiful childhood. looking at his tear-streaked face and my mother-in-law's shocked expression. I swung the club again and again, until the blocks were shattered and the club was bent. Leo sobbed uncontrollably. I don't want you. Bad mommy. I never want you to be my mommy again. I want Auntie Summer. I smirked. I pulled Leo out of my mother-in-law's arms. His crying grew louder, annoying me to no end. I grabbed a wad of tissue and stuffed it in his mouth. My mother-in-law was stunned by my actions. What are you doing to my grandson? Anna, quick. Call Michael and tell him to come home. His wife has gone crazy. I didn't answer her. Instead, I dragged Leo upstairs. I went into my bedroom and locked the door. Leo's crying subsided. He stopped calling for Summer and instead started pounding on the door, calling for his grandmother. He knew only his grandmother could save him. I broke off 3 vines from a plant and looked down at him. I was a first-time mother. I had no experience. All I did was spoil him and love him, giving him the best of everything. Since he didn't appreciate that, I would try a different method. I didn't know how to train a child, but I had trained a dog. When a dog first snarls at you, you have to let it know the consequences of snarling. You have to create a memory that will make it never dare to snarl at you again. That day, I broke 3 vines. I smashed all of Leo's toys. Leo cried inside the room, and my mother-in-law cried outside the door. The grandmother and grandson performed a symphony together, a soothing balm for my hard work. An hour later, I heard the sound of a door opening and a man's voice. Michael was back. The Michael who had said he had important business at the company and didn't even have time to celebrate his son's birthday was finally back. Isabella, open the door. Then a female voice followed. Isabella, please open the door. Leo is just a child. Hearing this voice, my hand, which was about to open the door, froze. Summer's voice was urgent, as if she were more concerned about Leo than his own father. I turned to look at Leo. He looked up when he heard Summer's voice, but then quickly lowered his head, as if remembering something. Isabella, even if you're angry, you can't take it out on Leo. No wonder he doesn't like you. I sneered and pushed open the door. The scene in the room made them gasp. My mother-in-law couldn't take it anymore and rushed in to hug Leo. The room was a mess. Leo's small body was kneeling on the floor, his back and bottom covered in red welts. Oh my dear grandson. Isabella, you're a venomous woman. Leo is so unlucky to have you as a mother. If you hit my grandson again, I'll kill myself. I scoffed. Fine. If you want to die, then go die. My mother-in-law's crying stopped abruptly. She hadn't expected me to say that. Isabella, what are you trying to do? Is this how you're a mother? This father, who had been a deadbeat since the child was born, the most he ever said was, "Is this how you're a mother?" What right did he have to ask that? Looking at his face, which had grown plump and lost its youthful charm, I raised my hand and swung it down hard. Michael's head was knocked to the side. I had used all my strength in that slap, and my palm was burning. His cheek instantly turned red and swollen. All these years of raising and a child, I was no longer the delicate, fragile girl who couldn't carry anything. Now, I was a strong mother. He looked at me in disbelief. Are you crazy? Summer pointed at me. How could you hit someone? Her soft fingers touched Michael's face. Her eyes filled with unconcealed pain. Michael, does it hurt? Isabella, even if you're angry, you can't hit someone. Leo is only 6. He just said he wanted me to be his mom. How could you be so cruel? No wonder Michael and Leo don't like you. Smack. I backhanded Summer across the face. Scumbags come in pairs. So my slap should too. I told you. I'm a strong mother now. Summer's scream echoed through the villa. Michael stopped relishing the pain of his slap and quickly hugged her. He threw down a threat. Isabella, let's get a divorce. I've had enough of you. My mother-in-law rushed out from behind me, holding Leo. Divorce. Our family doesn't want such a vicious daughter-in-law. I looked down at Leo. His little face was tear-streaked like a little kitten's. His back and bottom were a mess of welts from my beating, and he was frowning in pain. I asked him, Leo, Daddy wants to divorce Mommy. What do you think? Summer quickly said, Leo, do you want Auntie Summer to be your mommy? If they get a divorce, I can be your mommy. My mother-in-law Law stroked his head. My dear grandson, your birthday wish is about to come true. Michael also looked at him with encouragement. But Leo shook his head. I don't want a divorce. I don't want Daddy and Mommy to get a divorce. Summer, afraid he didn't understand what divorce meant, squatted down and coaxed him. Leo, do you want me to be your mommy? As long as they get a divorce. I can be your mommy. Daddy and Grandma are here. Don't be afraid to say it. She won't dare to hit you again. Leo looked at me, his head shaking like a rattle. No, I only have one mommy. Mommy, I'm sorry. He pulled his hand away from Summer and threw himself at me. The child I gave birth to will not become a knife that stabs me. He was still young and didn't understand many things. He had no sense of right and wrong, no worldview, and was easily influenced. He didn't understand what it meant for Summer to become his mother. This wasn't about a piece of cake or a toy. I could tell him. I could correct him. I could forgive him this time, but not without a price. Today, on his 6th birthday, this was the first lesson I taught him. When reason fails, force is more persuasive. It was clear that my husband and mother-in-law had never learned this lesson either. I didn't mind teaching them while I was educating my son. I picked up Leo and said to the stunned Michael, give me all your company shares, and I'll divorce you. In your dreams. I raised an eyebrow. Since he didn't agree, there was nothing to talk about. As I was about to turn and go downstairs, Summer called out to me, wait, you slapped me. I'm calling the police. I looked at her with a half-smile. Go ahead. I'm willing to pay compensation. With the marital assets Michael spent on you. But, Summer, I can demand the return of those marital assets at any time. Can you pay them back? Summer's face turned deathly pale. Michael had spent a lot of money on her this past year. Michael protected Summer. Don't scare her. I gave her all of that willingly. Michael was handsome when he was young, lean and elegant. But at his age, this kind of soap opera drama was just disgusting. I smiled. I'm so touched by your illicit affair. A cheating man and his mistress. Leo was already dozing off after the day's turmoil. I had no energy to argue with him anymore. I said to Michael, just a heads up. I need my office cleaned out. I'm coming back to work on Monday. With that, I left with Leo. Behind me, I could hear Michael's impotent rage. You're going to work. Who's going to take care of the child? Can you stop making trouble? Either divorce me, or take good care of the child. The start-up company Michael now managed was founded by me, Michael, and David Chen. When we first graduated, the three of us were the best of friends. Michael's family was poor, but he was talented and hardworking. At that time, with a passion and 800,000 yuan scraped together by me and David, we founded the company. Later, as the company grew, Michael and I fell in love. After getting married and having a child, I was so busy with Leo that I had no energy left to manage the company. My position as vice president was just a title, but I had always held 35% of the shares. I took Leo to my apartment in the city. He was already sound asleep. I gently applied iodine to his wounds. It was a lie to say it didn't hurt my heart, but even if it did, I couldn't let him continue like this. These past few days, I had hired a professional childcare team. I would no longer be a full-time stay-at-home mom, and my mother-in-law would not be raising Leo. Fortunately, I was not short on money. On Monday morning, I put on a suit I hadn't worn in a long time and drove to the company building. I hadn't been here in 2 years. The company used to be a small office in a commercial building. Now, the entire building belonged to the company. As I was about to go upstairs, I was stopped by a security guard. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. It was normal for the security guard not to know me, but it was not normal for him to identify me as unauthorized personnel. At a glance, just as I was about to speak, a male voice came from behind me. She is not unauthorized personnel. I turned to see David standing behind me with a smile on his face. Isabella, long time no see. He hadn't changed much. He wasn't greasy or overweight. He had a mature, manly air about him. I smiled. The security guard who had stopped me looked troubled. Mr. Chen. But Miss Summer instructed that she is not allowed in. David's face darkened. He said coldly, since when does a secretary run this company? The security guard lowered his head and didn't dare to speak. but he still stood in front of the gate, blocking my way. This was utter rebellion. All my patience was gone. A crowd of employees had already gathered in the lobby to watch the show. David was also a little embarrassed. The vice president of the company, stopped by a security guard in her own building. This would be a laughingstock if it got out. But it didn't matter. If they wouldn't let me in, I would let myself in. In the lobby, a steel sword was suspended in the air. It was the sword of Damocles that I had commissioned back then. When Michael and David wanted to put up some feng shui decorations in the company, I insisted on putting up this sword. The 40-pound steel sword, though not sharpened, was still useful for smashing things. I'm a reasonable person. A gate that couldn't even recognize my face was clearly not a good thing. In that case, why keep it? Bang, bang. The sounds echoed through the lobby. The security guard was dumbfounded. The onlookers all raised their phones to record this rare spectacle. This thing was much harder to smash than the building block castle. After a long time, I could only expose the wires inside. Just as I was about to continue, Summer came down from upstairs. What are you doing? Security. Stop this crazy woman. The security guard was about to approach me, but David stepped in front of me. Miss Summer, Isabella is the vice president of the company. What right do you have to stop her? Summer looked like she had just eaten a fly. In front of everyone. And with David blocking her, she couldn't have the security guard throw me out. I dragged the steel sword into the elevator and passed by Summer. Looking at her, I smiled. Tell Michael that his father is here with the sword of Damocles to pass judgment on him. The elevator doors closed, and David burst out laughing. His eyes held a look of admiration. Isabella, you haven't changed at all after all these years. I didn't say anything. We had all changed. We were no longer the passionate, loyal young people we once were. The top floor was for the senior management offices. My office was originally the largest one. Today, I discovered that Michael had knocked down the walls and combined it with his. This guy was truly shameless to the extreme. David patted my shoulder. I won't get involved in you two's family matters. I stopped him. This isn't a family matter. With David leading the way, I entered Michael's office without any obstruction. Michael was sitting behind his desk with a dark face, clearly aware of what had happened downstairs. Isabella, can you please stop making a scene? I didn't want to waste time with him. I took out my share certificate from my bag. Michael, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Within an hour, I want you to divide everything that belongs to me, whether it's projects or departments, and this office. Otherwise, I will sell all my shares to David right now. Michael's face changed drastically. He knew that if I was willing to sell these shares, David would sell everything he owned to buy them. Before we got married, to avoid unnecessary disputes in the company, we had had our shares notarized. My original shares had never been touched all these years. Michael and David's shareholdings had always been about the same. But whether I had had my shares notarized or not, I was still Michael's wife. Our family owned 56% of the shares. In the 2 years I had been away, Michael had long regarded my shares as his own and had already started to consolidate his power. When we were building the company, everyone was like family. But now that the company was stable, every bit of profit was a source of conflict. There can't be two tigers on one mountain. David had no reason to be willing to be second in command. Now that I was back at the company, and in this manner, no one was happier to see this than David. But he still had to feign reluctance. Isabella, this isn't right. Michael looked up at David's gloating face and gritted his teeth at me. Isabella, you're ruthless. He pressed the intercom and called Summer in. Summer walked in with her head held high, even sneering at me as she passed. But when she heard Michael's words, her arrogance instantly vanished. Summer frowned and whined. Michael, how could you let her come back? What will people at the company think of me? Michael waved his hand, not wanting to say more. Just do as I say. Summer blinked, her eyes instantly filling with tears. Seeing that staring at Michael was useless, she turned and glared at me with hatred. I suddenly found it amusing. It was rare to see a mistress so brazen. Well then, let's make her even more brazen. I lifted my chin and said with a smile, I'll take this secretary of yours too. Michael slammed his hand on the table. Don't go too far. I smiled and waved the share certificate. Please, I insist. Under Summer's incredulous gaze, Michael nodded with a dark face. with the threat of the share transfer. Michael worked quickly. Within an hour, he had not only reorganized my direct department, but also transferred 2 projects that were under discussion. It was just that the people in this department looked like a bunch of misfits. Michael's intentions were obvious. He was throwing me a bunch of marginal figures and 2 unimportant projects to get rid of me. Even with an extra vice president and department, it wouldn't have any impact on the company, and I would never get access to the real core projects. Over time, I wouldn't have any standing in the company. If I didn't comply, he could downsize and reorganize the department, making drastic changes. The severance pay for the entire department would be a huge sum. I had been out of the workforce for many years, and my sensitivity to company operations, project risks, and employee capabilities had declined significantly. With my current abilities, I would definitely mess up the department. Michael didn't need to do anything else. He just had to distract me a little with Leo, and I would mess everything up. I was never a stubborn person who had to prove myself. I had always believed that professional matters should be left to professionals. That same day, I hired a professional headhunter and offered a high salary to recruit a professional manager to manage my small department. Her annual salary was completely disproportionate to the returns my department could generate, but it didn't matter. The one thing I wasn't short on now was money. What I lacked was a way to quickly integrate into the company and establish a foothold. When I came to work the next morning, the gate downstairs had been replaced, and the security guard from yesterday was gone. Michael's office was already being renovated. David offered to let me use his office, but I refused. I gave the manager's office in my department to the manager I had hired. I went straight to the 3rd department, the most densely populated one. The 3rd department was Michael's department, which handled the company's core projects. I had someone clear a desk for me and started working directly in the open plan office. As for my secretary, she naturally had to be here with me, under the watchful eyes of everyone. From the moment I arrived this morning, Summer had been following me. Michael had kept his word and really given me his beloved woman. He wanted Summer to keep an eye on me. I looked up at the red-eyed Summer. She didn't look like someone who could successfully complete this task. I opened a file, and although I hadn't worked in a long time, I could tell at a glance that the data was fabricated and heavily inflated. I smirked. If you don't want me to have an easy time, then you won't either. Miss Summer, go downstairs and buy me a coffee. Miss Summer, are you trying to kill me with bitterness? It's so hot. Are you trying to burn me? I don't want coffee anymore. Get me a glass of orange juice. By the time Summer brought the orange juice to my desk, it was almost lunchtime. Her eyes and nose were red and swollen. It looked like she had been crying several times. Everyone in the large office seemed to be working with their heads down, but they were actually watching my every move. I glanced at the orange juice and didn't touch it. Just as I was about to speak, Summer couldn't hold back and asked with a sob, "What else do you want?" I smiled. With such a weak psychological constitution, how could she be a mistress? I didn't answer her. Instead, I stood up and addressed the people in the office. "Sorry for taking up your space. Lunch is on me today. Miss Summer, please find out what everyone wants to eat and have it delivered to the office before lunch." Mistresses are universally despised. These people had watched me torment Summer all morning, and now it was their turn. They said in unison, "Thank you, boss's wife." I pointed to the nameplate on the desk and said with a smile, "Don't call me boss's wife." The uniform voice sounded again. "Thank you, Ms. Anderson." I turned to look at Summer. Her tears finally burst forth. "Miss Summer, I want the spicy hot pot from across the street. No cilantro, no garlic, less sesame paste, more vinegar. I'll have the barbecue pork rice, beef and pork combo, no chili." The employees' orders came one after another. A wide variety of dishes. For a department of over 100 people, they ordered from 60 or 70 different restaurants. Summer gritted her teeth, tears streaming down her face. Didn't she say she didn't want power or status? Just love. I wanted to see how long Michael's love could make her endure this. The workplace is the best place to judge people. The events of the morning spread throughout the company. Even a video of Summer secretly wiping her tears was circulated. At noon, David invited me to lunch. I glanced at the time. It was almost half an hour past lunchtime, and Summer hadn't returned. I told the others in the office, It seems Miss Summer won't be back with lunch. Choose any restaurant near the company. Go eat. It's on me. When Summer returned, she found the entire department empty. She didn't show up for the rest of the afternoon. At 4 in the afternoon, the nanny from home called me, saying someone claiming to be my mother-in-law had come to the door. We hadn't been back to the family villa since Leo's birthday. That apartment was in my name, and my mother-in-law didn't have the password. The nanny only recognized me without my permission. No one could take Leo. As soon as I hung up, my mother-in-law's call came through. She started by questioning me. Isabella, what are you doing hiding my grandson? Bring my dear grandson back right now. Come back and take good care of the child. What kind of shady people are you hiring? You won't even let me in. What's a woman like you doing out in public, causing a scene at the company? It's no wonder my son doesn't like you. If you bring the child back now, I'll still consider you part of the family. Was being part of their family such an honor? I hung up the phone directly and blocked her number. Truly clueless. I had HR mark Summer's absence in the afternoon as truancy. According to company policy, 3 days of truancy would result in automatic dismissal. Summer was absent for 2 consecutive days. On the 3rd day, she arrived just before the dismissal deadline. She was wearing a new Chanel suit, carrying a Hermes Birkin bag. She also had a diamond necklace around her neck. It seemed Michael had compensated her well for the grievances she had suffered. She threw her bag on the table, her long, manicured fingers covering her mouth. Ms. Anderson, I wasn't feeling well these past 2 days and went out to rest. I didn't have time to tell you. You're not mad at me, are you? She was the epitome of affectation. I smiled. This was just the beginning. It was easy to endure for a day or two. But what about a week or two? There were plenty of ways to make things difficult for her. Michael could appease her with a Birkin bag today, but he couldn't buy her one every day. A week later, Summer stopped coming again. Michael finally couldn't take it anymore and came to me, asking me to bring Leo home for dinner. This time, I didn't refuse. At the family villa, I brought Leo and the nanny, Ms. Zhang, with me. When my mother-in-law saw Leo, she rushed forward. Oh, my dear grandson. Grandma missed you so much. Let Grandma give you a kiss. Before she could touch Leo, Ms. Zhang stopped her. I'm sorry, but adults have a lot of bacteria in their mouths. Leo's immune system is weak, so it's not advisable for him to come into contact with your saliva. My mother-in-law was stunned by Ms. Zhang's words. Leo, standing beside her like a little adult, said, Grandma, Ms. Zhang is right. What we're doing is unhygienic. Under my mother-in-law's dumbfounded gaze, Leo obediently went to wash his hands and sit down. Just as my mother-in-law was about to erupt, Michael and Summer came down from upstairs. It looked like they had already moved into my bedroom. Summer acted like the lady of the house and greeted me. Isabella, you're here. I asked Ms. Zhang to take Leo to play. The reason I was called back today was not just to show off that she had taken over my home. Isabella, this is the divorce agreement. If you have no problem with it, just sign it. Michael stood by, his head bowed. Even at this point, at the brink of divorce, he was still letting a woman handle things. I gave him a deep look and opened the divorce agreement. Assets under the name, 3 million. 1 house and 1 car. Willing to give all cash to Ms. Anderson. The divorce agreement was full of loopholes. He wasn't a fool. If he dared to write it like this, he could naturally make sure that only these assets were found under his name. I closed the agreement. Fine. I'll have my lawyer contact you to settle the assets. Isabella, you can have the child, but you have to promise not to sell the shares to David. I looked at Summer's slightly protruding belly and sneered. Michael, you're the one who cheated. What right do you have to fight me for custody of the child? Add another clause. Leo will sever all ties with your family. Then I can give you a written guarantee that I will not transfer the shares to anyone. My mother-in-law shot up, staring at Michael. Leo is our bloodline. Michael frowned and remained silent for a long time. Fine. My mother-in-law stood there, stunned, looking at her son in disbelief. After years in the business world, nothing was more important to him than his interests. I smiled with satisfaction. Leo, not far away, had witnessed everything. The asset settlement was completed quickly. and the actual amount matched the agreement. Summer had resigned. I heard she was at home, resting and preparing for her pregnancy, just waiting for us to get our divorce certificate so she could marry into the family. Michael and I would occasionally see each other at the company, but we never spoke. Once the cooling off period for the divorce was over, we smoothly got our divorce certificates. After getting the certificate, I didn't say a word to him. We had once been in love. We had endured the hardest times together. When I found the lipstick stain on his shirt, when I saw Summer's text message, I had given him a chance. I had turned a blind eye. But what about him? He said he only then realized that what he felt for me was just familial affection, and that what he felt for Summer was love. After the divorce, David booked a French restaurant to celebrate with me and sent me a large bouquet of flowers to wish me a new beginning. Roses. Very fragrant, but with thorns. After the celebration, I quickly changed Leo's last name. David had already started to make his move. The next morning, when I arrived at the company, I happened to see the police taking Michael away. I wasn't surprised. I smiled as I watched him. The moment he saw me, Michael understood everything. I had signed the divorce agreement so readily. I hadn't used his affair to demand money. I had let him off with just $3 million. All of this was waiting for him here. Summer was pregnant. The baby wouldn't wait. Michael didn't want the child to be labeled as illegitimate. So he had to divorce me. I knew that if he wanted to, I would never be able to get the assets I was entitled to in the divorce. Michael would definitely transfer his assets, leaving no trace. So, I returned to the company and joined forces with David. On the one hand, I made things difficult for Summer, forcing Michael to transfer his assets and speed up the divorce process. On the other hand, I provoked Summer to appease her. Michael would definitely spend money on her, but during the asset transfer, Michael could only misappropriate public funds first. An investigation revealed that he had already used $20 million. He thought that as long as he quietly replenished the public funds after the divorce, everything would be fine. He didn't expect that all of this was a trap we had set for him. His core project was a separate team, inaccessible to others. I had been working in the third department for so long, not just to be a spectacle for them to watch. After Michael was taken away, my lawyer quickly sued him for illegally transferring marital assets. If he wanted to replenish the money, he would have to admit to illegally transferring marital assets. Either way, he couldn't escape the charge of misappropriating public funds. The amount was huge, enough to land him in jail for a long time. He wouldn't get a single penny of my money. After Michael was arrested, his mother came to see me several times. I had bodyguards with me, and she couldn't even get close. The office on the top floor was finally renovated. These past few days, I had been like a sponge, frantically catching up on the years I had missed. Now that I had some free time, I worked tirelessly. Besides spending time with Leo, I spent all my time at the company. David would often bring me meals. Over time, some rumors started to spread in the company. Some said he had been waiting for me all these years and had never gotten married. Others said he had had a secret crush on me when we were young, and they concocted a complicated love triangle story for the three of us. Rumors stop with the whys. I hadn't paid them any mind at first, but the rumors grew more and more intense, and David's behavior became more and more strange. He sent a bouquet of roses to my office every day without fail. He would take a detour to drive me to and from work, even following me when I was driving my own car. I told him directly, "Stop sending me flowers." But he asked if I didn't like roses, saying he could send other flowers. The rumors grew even more intense. Just in time for the company's annual party. This was the first major event since I had returned. As the largest shareholder of the company, I had also prepared a speech. After the speech, the lights suddenly dimmed. I had a bad feeling. Soft music started playing from the speakers, and David walked onto the stage with a bouquet of flowers. He was going to confess his feelings for me in front of the entire company. He walked onto the stage and looked at me with deep affection. "Isabella, I've actually liked you for a long time. When we were starting the company together, in that small office, you were the one who encouraged me. I've been waiting for you." His eyes held a nauseatingly deep affection. I looked at him, my gaze devoid of any warmth. Michael was a scumbag, and he was no better. Although he hadn't gotten married all these years, he had had a string of women by his side. The rumors had spread so much that even he himself had started to believe them. To get my shares. He could even say such disgusting things. A man in his 30s. Still trying to play the pure love card. Finally, after he finished speaking, I grabbed the microphone. I smiled. You deserve someone better. Not the best. Like me. With that, I addressed the employees below the stage. Mr. Chin is just joking with everyone. Let the party continue. I put down the microphone and walked off the stage, ignoring David's expression. Did he really think I had lived all these years for nothing? David and Michael had long prioritized their own interests, their mouths full of lies. Men change for the worse when they get rich. So why would they think a woman with money would remain the same naive and kind-hearted person she once was? The next day, a video of the confession at the annual party was posted online. Netizens cast him as the devoted second male lead in a novel, and I was the ungrateful female lead. They mocked me, a divorced woman with a child, for daring to reject a diamond bachelor like David. The internet was full of criticism against me. David was behind the scenes, manipulating public opinion and cyberbullying me. In my office, Chloe handed me the project files that David had rejected. This morning, everything that had passed through his hands had been rejected. The business world is like a battlefield. The most taboo things are acting on impulse and being arrogant. He thought he could make me bow down with these tactics. In his dreams, he would pay the ultimate price for his arrogance. A month later, Michael's case was finally decided. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison for misappropriating a huge amount of public funds. After replenishing the misappropriated funds, Michael also had to pay me for the assets he had transferred during our marriage. I went to see him. He looked much more haggard and had lost a lot of weight. He looked a bit like he did when we were starting the company. When he saw me, his eyes instantly turned red. Isabella, I regret it. I shouldn't have treated you like that. You were so good to me. I really regret it. Summer had an abortion. It was within my expectations. The child's father was in prison, so it was normal for her to have an abortion. A scumbag's tears are worthless. But now, I had to play along. Michael, you should reform yourself in there. I'll help you take care of things on the outside. David has changed. He's suppressing me at the company, buying up scattered shares to weaken my influence. You don't want to see our shared efforts being swallowed up by David, do you? At first, when I talked about his shares, he was resistant. Over time, I was the only one who visited him. I brought him food and drink, cared for him, and asked about his well-being. When a person is in a difficult situation, they will cling to any straw they can find. In just 3 months, I had obtained the proxy for his shares. I bought up scattered shares, won over the board of directors, and held a new board meeting to elect a new chairman. Only then did David realize he had underestimated me. While he was still thinking about how to force me to be with him, I had already started to kick him out of the company. David's influence in the company was too great. Even after I became the chairman and made things difficult for him at every turn, it still took me 2 years to seize real power from his hands. In these 2 years, my shareholding had exceeded 50%. The company had become my personal domain. Leo was already in elementary school. Ever since Michael had abandoned him for the sake of his own interests, he had never mentioned his father again. I had settled Michael's mother in their hometown. Since I was going to be the proxy for Michael's shares, I couldn't treat his mother poorly. As for Michael's shares, he still had 6 years left. When he got out, the world would have completely changed. One day, I was eating out with Leo when I suddenly heard a stream of insults. I looked up and saw a familiar face. Summer was grabbing a young girl, yelling at her, calling her a mistress and a bitch. A man rushed up and slapped Summer across the face. Shut up and go home. The girl Summer was holding was crying. The one who is not loved is the mistress. My brother and I are truly in love. After the girl said this, the man hugged her and left the restaurant. Only Summer was left, standing there with her hand on her face. I looked away and took Leo into a private room. Perhaps this was karma.